fight the power. Class was more important than race to Fred Hampton. Producers of the Fred Hampton film want us to believe that he only became a menace to the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover once he decided to set up a coalition with white racist groups. See, it's very important that the filmmakers and the backers of this biopic get over to the public or to the audience watching it that any black nationalism, any black separatist talk, any black talk ultimately was going nowhere. It was only when Fred Hampton and others embraced their white brothers and sisters did the government get worried. You see, if ultimately it's about integration, ultimately the story they're telling is that the Black Panthers were a patriotic, integrationist, black. Oh, hi, I'm SUNDJATA. I'm the founder of Warrior for Power. Warrior for Power is the only organization on planet Earth dedicated to the total, radical transformation of the lives of African people on planet Earth. If you are a brother and you look like me and you want to do something truly amazing with your life and to help your family and our people, then come join Warrior for Power. It costs just $2 if you're living in the Caribbean, the Americas, or Africa, or $6 if you're living in the West. They say that if you explain your idea or concept to an 11-year-old and the 11-year-old doesn't get it, then either you haven't explained it well enough or you don't get your own concept or idea. So, with that said, now I'm going to keep most of this analysis back for the Patreon members. We're going to do a series of talks and courses around 20th century Black revolutionary history. So I'm going to just be very brief in this video. With that said, I'm going to explain what I mean in a very simple way. It might be too simple for you to get because you want it complex. When it isn't complex, it's quite simple. And I argue on this channel that there's such a thing or things like simple, timeless truths. And we have to deal in simplicity because of the noise. There's way too much noise. So let's pare it all back and let's get down to the brass tacks. I'm going to explain this in a simple. Now, can we agree that the Europeans invaded the Americas and the Caribbean and they committed a genocide on the Native Americans and the natives of the Caribbean? Can we agree that? Now, you may not agree, and some of you might agree with the notion that the enslaved Africans into the Caribbean, into the Americas and North America were also subject to genocide. So for now, if you can just agree with me that Africans who were enslaved into the New World were also subject of genocide. Now, can we also agree that those who work within the socialist or Marxist tradition do not define Native Americans, whether in North America, in the Caribbean, or in the Americas generally, they don't define them as part of the working class of those societies? Can we agree on that? So, if it is the case that Native Americans are not a part of the class system of white people in North America, and if it is also the case that Africans who were enslaved into North America are not a part of the class system, then how is it that Africans are being brought into the European class system? Do you see? If you agree with me that the Native American is not a part of the formal class system of the Europeans or of white people in the New World, then if you agree that they are not a part of it, then you must also agree with me that the enslaved African that ended up in North America, particularly the United States of America, across the Americas, South and Latin America, and the Caribbean, if you agree with me that Africans who were enslaved into those areas are also outside of the European class system that is located in the New World. The co-founders of the Black Panthers, Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, when they were looking around for examples of revolution, they would reference the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution. Their heroes were Chairman Mao, Stalin, Lenin, Marx. Their heroes were not Jean-Jacques Dessalines of Haiti. Their heroes were not Shaka Zulu. The revolution that was our greatest moment in the last 300 to 400 years trapped in the West is the revolution in Haiti, totally ignored. Why? Because they argue that it's not a class-based revolution, but a race-based revolution. Do you see?
And that's saying all power to the people. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back, because this is lower, this is upper. This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor. This is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people.
Their experience of living under white domination has led them to believe that what they were doing was fighting a class war. And the African who was enslaved into North America was not separate and different from the European, but was in effect an extension of the European. You see, the African, who then they redefined as black to link them to their sisters and brothers who were white in this binary black and white relationship, you see, they believed that the African who became black was had no more had no more importance in terms of their ethnicity than anybody else. They were fundamentally just working class. They were workers who sold their labor to the highest bidder. They were just working class black people. They had no prior history other than the status of being working class. Do you see? You see, the Europeans in America, that's the USA and the South and Latin America and the Caribbean, they who follow that socialist or Marxist tradition see the African population as a significant population in the Americas. They also see our vibrant nature, our energy, and they want to tap into that. They want to use us within in the fight to bring an end to a capitalist system of exploitation in North America. That is why we are defined as part of the class system. They want to use our energy to bring down the capitalist system. And secondly, they do not believe that our ethnicity, i.e. the African ethnicity within the Americas, is as significant as the indigenous Americans, the Native Americans. Do you see? They see us as essentially white people in a dark skin.
African Americans, who are so-called Negro. One of the reasons that it is bad for us to continue to just refer to ourselves as so-called Negro, that's negative. When we say so-called Negro, that's pointing out what we aren't, but it isn't telling us what we are. We are African, and we happen to be in America.
As opposed to the Native Americans, who are a separate group and thus not brought in to the class system. So for Fred Hampton, bringing together black radicals and white racist groups together in a class struggle was the ultimate declaration of humanity. Ultimately, after the FBI did as much damage to them as possible, the Black Panther Party faded away in the 1980s. Now, you might be arguing, and you have every justification to argue, that as black people living under white oppression, there is no alternative but to bring down white oppression, to fight to end white oppression. And if it takes 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, or 500 years, then that's what we will do as black people living under white oppression. And that's their argument. Let me push back and say that the fact that we're living in the West is just a part of criminality. We're living in the West as a result of criminality. We're not living in the West of our own free will. We were dragged into the West to help create wealth for the European. Why should we honor that? You see, we are stolen people on stolen land. Surely, what is simple, what is very basic, and what I argue on this channel is that there are simple, timeless truths. If somebody kidnaps you from your family and from your home, it is your responsibility to go home. That's your responsibility. There is nothing else. You do not have to foment class war. These people are not your family. You owe them nothing. And the argument that there is no alternative to white domination is just false. Do you see? Now, did the Black Panther Party make links with Africa? I'm not sure. If you know that they did, leave a comment below. But what I do know is that one of the leading lights, Stokely Carmichael, got involved with Africa because he opened his mind. And what's important is that he was born in Trinidad and Tobago. So when he went to America as a young man, he was not in love with the notion of white domination. He just doesn't accept it, or he didn't accept it. So he changed his name to Kwame Ture and lived and worked in Africa for the revolution. The Black Panther Party, what were they doing? Even Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had better relationships with the political movements on the continent of Africa. It's all there for anybody to check. So no, I do not accept that African people are part of the class system of Europeans. If the Native Americans are not a part of the class system of the Europeans, then neither are African people who are trapped in the West. Do you see? Now, I've extended the video on Patreon, so come over to Patreon if you want to carry on the discussion. Okay, let me leave you with a question, because I like to think that you are reasoning out these thoughts. The question is, if the Black Panther Party had made formal, substantial and deep links with Africa, do you think that the Black Panther Party would be here today? Secondly, do you think if Fred Hampton had lived, would he have ended up like Jesse Jackson with his own rainbow coalition? Okay, so that's me. I'm done. All I need to say now is don't forget to subscribe below, hit the button, turn on the notification bell so you're the first to get the next video, and share the video with at least one person. When I mean share, I'm talking about WhatsApp or email or whatever, direct to your friends. Okay, so that's me. I'm out of here. I'm SUNDJATA. You've been watching Warrior for Power. Peace.